Thank you for joining me this morning. You know, in starting this conversation off, you're the Chief Global Development Officer for Accor, but based on the track record of what Accor has been doing in terms of opening up so many new hotels, building and developing them, you should almost have a different title of Chief Air Traffic Controller. I mean, give me an overview, if you can, of the development scene right now. Let's start globally, and then let's move into Latin and South America.
Sure. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me on this panel. So Accor globally, we have today 5,800 hotels, around 850,000 keys, and we're growing exponentially with throughout all brands. So we have 1,400 hotels in the pipeline, 230,000 keys. We're growing in all regions. Southeast Asia has been tremendous increase. Middle East, Africa also. And Europe, we have around 55% of the market share, and we're growing quite a lot there. And Americas, I love Americas because especially in this region, we have quite a lot of pipeline. I think we have, as of today, 560 hotels, around 103,000 keys. And we have a pipeline of almost 20,000. And we are growing exponentially in this market. Last year, we signed around 66,000 keys globally. So you're looking at 410 hotels.
And that's more than one a day.
We're opening actually more than one a day and signing a little bit more. And it's chiming with a lot of our brands, including Grand Mercure. In Japan last year, we signed 6,500 keys of Grand Mercure, which has been tremendous for this region. We were non-existent in Japan, and now we're like the second top operator there. We have signed 400 Movenpicks in China, which will open in the next 4 to 5 years.
Mostly regional travel.
Regional travel, mostly. I've seen... that was a long answer. Short answer, I've seen a lot of appetite for hotel investment as an asset class. And I'll tell you, before, when you're an investor in real estate, you would look at office, resi, you would look at logistics. Today, hotel as an asset class has gone up on the radar of investors globally from 8th to 5th. And the reason why is because although you take more risk, operational risk, it actually brings you much more yield and returns on equity than any other asset class. And we have seen a surge also in what I call in mixed use. So on the mixed use side, today what we offer investors is a hotel brand, but also an extended stay within that hotel brand. So it diversifies your risk because it brings you some base occupancy. And more importantly is the branded residential, which I see a lot of opportunity today in this market, especially in Americas. A lot of the branded residential have been previously, historically, on luxury. Today, we can see it also on the upper upscale, on the premium, and even start of the mid-scale. And then when you amalgamate these three together, we also own 3 food and beverage companies. So we bring in this to the investor. And then we also own co-working companies. And actually on Friday, we announced that our Accor Live Limitless, which is our loyalty program, has hit the 100 million mark globally. And it's very, very lifestyle. So within the mixed use, you actually get different cash flows, and you diversify the cash flows for the investor.
From the beginning.
From the beginning, and also allows the investor to have more space for different residential, some office, some retail maybe. But all of it together amalgamated, because of the diversification of cash flows, will actually compress the cap rate for an investor when they want to exit or they want to refinance.
Well, you come from the world of private equity.
Yes.
So how have you now adjusted? I mean, we heard an earlier presentation this morning about growth rates now being depressed, lower than they thought, inflation being higher than they thought.
Yep.
I mean, and of course, demand being just as strong. At what point do you say we can sustain this?
So when I was in private equity 5 years ago, before I joined Accor, I stayed there for 7 years, and we bought, improved, and sold around 65 hotels. Out of these hotels, 27 I chose to have on the Mercure brand. And actually, the CEO of Americas, Thomas Dubar, he's sitting here. He was at the time the managing director for the UK. And what I liked the most about the approach for Accor at the time was they were looking for asking me the right questions for my investment criteria. So what is it that you want to achieve? What is your hold period? What's your IRR, equity multiple expectation? What do you want to do in PIPs, etc.? And this is where we were able to marry the right deal with the right brand. And private equity and investment in hotels goes up in cycles. Sometimes you have, tailwinds. Sometimes you have headwinds. Sometimes it's more about the compression of the market that you play with, or more you bet more on the alpha and the management. So when interest rates are high, like today, when construction costs are high, you gotta diversify your strategy and think creatively outside the box.
But it also forces you to have a different conversation with your owners.
Absolutely. So today, I mentioned the mixed use, which works a lot with what I'm saying because it helps to diversify the cash flows. But more and more, we are finding branded residential standalones. So we are actually doing brand residential standalones. We can have a Movenpick, we can have a Grand Mercure, we can have a Novotel, we can have a Raffles, a Fairmont, all of that stuff. The other part is conversions. 50% of our signings today, in the last 2 years, are actually conversions. So investors...
So the number of new builds is smaller.
Correct. So the number of new builds is small for a variety of reasons. One is availability of the plot of the land. And the other reason is obviously cost of construction, as you've highlighted. So it makes much more sense to look at a building, whether it's an office or an existing hotel, unbranded or branded, that you can reposition, all of that. The return on equity is much quicker with a conversion, and the cost of making it happen, the yield on cost is much lower. So makes a lot of sense that you continue in the thought process of thinking outside the box and not traditionally just doing a hotel and building it up from scratch.
And how many total brands at Accor?
46 plus.
But who's counting? All right, but given that, how do you then localize your brand strategies in every different market here in Latin and South America?
So it depends on the market. We don't go with all brands in all markets. So I have a lot of regional brands in Australia, for example, that do not chime in other markets. So in this market, it's all about making sure that the brand that we are offering is the brand that will make the best return on investment, return on equity for the owner. And where it's mostly also renowned, and where we can put all the marketing efforts and sales, marketing, distribution, loyalty to make sure that we're bringing the most return on the cost of acquisition per key for the owner is suited for that market to make sure.
Now, we're seeing demand staying strong. A lot of people didn't think that would happen, but it has.
Yes.
The second question, though, is what have you seen changes in customer demand and customer expectations, meaning guests, that you then have to translate into a conversation with your owners?
Yes. In the past, I would say 4 or 5 years, customers have changed a lot. The pattern, the booking pattern, the time to booking, etc. What is very important for us is always to look ahead of what are the emerging trends. Today, we don't build or convert hotels anymore for the international traveler. We build and convert hotels for the local community.
And that's a huge change.
It's a huge change, but we're at the forefront of this. And why? Because we believe this international traveler takes time, reviews on many websites, and they want to find the gem of where they're going to sit and visit. So they want to find a hotel that is connected to the local neighborhood, where they can experience authentic experience and food, and that this hotel is part of the community. So if I come to Rio, I come to Sao Paulo, I want to really experience what it is about Sao Paulo and Rio.
So ironically, you're almost following the Airbnb model.
So it's a little bit to the point where, yes, Airbnb model could be extrapolated in this way.
About the immersion into the community.
Yes. However, when I'm an international traveler and I know and I found this gem, as I was saying, and I'm experiencing the F&B, what I also want, which is super important, is to know that this hotel is part of a larger chain. Why? Health and safety, fire life safety.
Loyalty.
Plus the loyalty. And that's why we have a huge surge in our Accor Live Limitless loyalty members to up to 100 million, because they can earn and churn points, not only in hotels, but also in all the F&B. We have more than 10,000 restaurants and bars globally, but also in entertainment. We have Accor arenas, we have concerts, we have nightlife. So when you combine both of those together, this is the emerging consumer of the future, and this is what we are offering to our owners to make sure that what we do in hotels, in whatever brand, we've injected this type of what we call today lifestyle. Because lifestyle isn't only about design. It's about this whole immersion, the social hub, the immersion with the local community. All of it together brings in all these type of customers from different ages, not only the millennials or Generation Z, but also the corporates, also the families.
And of course, every age perceives themselves to be younger than they actually are.
Absolutely. I mean, we have a lot of people and families who are more of senior age, but they actually come to our hotels because they love the fact that Pullman has this lifestyle element. EB Styles has a lot of these elements, and they will pay a premium for it.
Now, one of the mistakes that a lot of the brands have made in terms of the chains is that they didn't realize that people don't really change their lifestyle when they change their location. They think they do, but they don't. They still want to know what their favorite sports team did last night. They still want to have connectivity, right? And they also, from a cost point of view, they know what a bottle of water costs. They don't want to spend $19 for a bottle of water in the room. So what have you done design-wise to support that?
From a design perspective, we try to make sure that the design of where you are is also connected to the place of where you are. So more and more, we do not have segregated spaces everywhere. It's more about optimizing the space. It's about the hub, the heart of the hotel, and where you can see and experience all of that together. I don't know if that answers your question, but
well, I'll
it's
do
more
it another
about,
way. I'll do it another way. What I'm noticing in a lot of hotels, including some of yours,
Yes.
is in some of the rooms, I can't find a desk anymore. In some of the rooms, I can't find a dresser. In most of the rooms, I can't find a bathtub. All those are now leaving. Now, some of those may be a result of the dimensions of the room, but I would like to think it's also a result of what you're hearing from your own guests about what they don't want.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there's many elements. One of it is what the customer is asking for today. Do I need to have a bathtub, even in some upper-end hotels? Also, how long are they staying in the room? Is it just to sleep, or it's really about going down to the social areas and spending time and co-working and other things? So yes, we adapt all of this to the latest consumer trends.
And of course, that brings up the elephant in the room, artificial intelligence. It's got great promise. To me, it also has great fear and threat. For me, I would love artificial intelligence to wash my car and do my laundry. I do not want them to write my speech. So how are you employing AI at the ownership level, at the development level, and at the guest experience level?
There has been a lot of discussion and hype about AI. Personally, I believe the following. We should not be calling it artificial intelligence for hotels. I will tell you what I think we should be calling it. But to get there, I will start with this. If we get that technology to automate the foreseeable, the predictable, the mundane, repetitive tasks.
Back of the house.
Back of the house, even front of the house in some things, where it takes much, it makes it much more efficient for our human capital, our team. If they get all this automation and the information that they need, then it empowers them to actually focus more on the guest experience. So you get the data, from the data you get real good information, and then you can really make sure that you are wowing the guests, surprising them, and giving them authentic service. So when you combine both, this is how you take AI, and you do not call it anymore artificial, because there's nothing artificial about our human relationship. But you take that information and you make it to empower, and then you would call it more, I would say, augmented intelligence or assisting intelligence in order to wow our customers and provide a genuine service that will wow them.
Of course, in this early stage of AI, I like to focus more not on artificial intelligence, but natural stupidity. Let me explain. And I'll give you an airline example. And by the way, this ended up in court. A customer at Air Canada called Air Canada to make a reservation. He was immediately diverted to a chatbot. And everything the chatbot told this guest or this passenger was so wrong, misleading, and incorrect that he never got to his flight, the bags never showed up, he never showed up, and he actually sued Air Canada. And you would like to hear what their defense was?
Sure.
Oh, I'm going to tell you anyway. Their defense was, oh, we can't be responsible for the chatbot. It has a mind of its own.
Oh my God, okay.
And of course, that defense was thrown out by the judge immediately. So we have to be careful that we not let AI take the precedence over common sense.
Absolutely. And chiming with everything that I said, we are actually investing a lot, but to make sure that we get our teams, the human capital, at the forefront, and they get all this information and provide better service.
Now, the other elephant in the room is government participation. Government understanding the development process, understanding partnerships that you're developing. Are you seeing in this part of the world governments finally getting it, understanding the power and impact of hospitality in the hotel business?
I think, like in every part of the world, it's about education. It's about working together with the local governments and more on a global scale to make sure that they understand that this is something that, it will bring them value and it will improve on sustainability. It should be sustainable growth. We have done a lot of work and we are on the forefront of sustainability. Today, when we sign with an owner, and a lot of owners really love that, is the fact that we give them a toolbox. The toolbox of sustainability is as follows: quick wins, medium-term wins, longer-term wins. So they're not afraid anymore about sustainability because they didn't know about it.
And what they knew about it was it was going to cost them.
This is the fear. So the fact that you go through the detail, that you have quick wins, which is not going to cost you that much, medium-term wins, which is going to cost you a little bit, but on a longer term, and then you have the big investments, and also making sure that it ties with the government plan, with bank financing, with the right financing, because ultimately, if you do the ESG in the right way, it actually improves tremendously the value of your asset. We've done a study with owners in Europe, and it showed around 200 basis points better cap when you do that. In Asia, a lot of owners, although it's not as demanded, they are actually doing it out of because they see the value that it brings. So it's all about ROE, so return on equity. It's all about the timing and improving the asset value, whether you want to sell it or refinancing.
There's also ROE, return on experience and return on emotion.
Okay, I'm looking at it on our return on equity, but I love the emotion and the, what was the last one?
Experience.
And experience, absolutely.
in the last couple of years, we've seen two waves, right? We see pre-2019, where everybody was doing great,
Yep.
and then post-2022, maybe, when everybody was doing even better, right? In those 6-year wins, that 6-year window, what lessons did you learn that you've been able to apply?
From an investment perspective?
Yeah.
So I think people, so there's two things, right? The cost of doing business has changed tremendously. Interest rates were sub-zero, whatever. So people who used to invest in private equity and getting the returns of 18 to 20 is very, very tough now. Actually, private equity was created back in the US when interest rates were at 15%. And they were just giving them 4% more. As time passed, interest rates went down, so people got more and more greedy. So one of the major changes is that the cost of capital that is being raised today has lower return expectations, including private equity or sovereign wealth funds or core and core plus, etc. So those who have already raised capital at these high rates, and it's costing them because they have to keep it, they had to think creatively. And this is where we came in together as one team, I would say, and to see how we can do it. And this is how conversions have become much more interesting. So this is the major shift. Conversions, ESG, so sustainability, environment, and governance. Branded residential, which we are the largest, second largest branded residential operator in the world, and it's growing massively. And this whole mixed use and injecting lifestyle in everything we do.
Are you finding that global instability is driving people in a way to want ownership in other locations?
There's a lot of cross-border, great question. There's a lot of cross-border investments. We've seen a surge of 20% last year.
That's huge.
It's huge. I've never seen this before 2022, I would say, or even in 2019. So I can see investors from Middle East going into Europe, into Americas. I can see from Pacific, from Southeast Asia coming more into Middle East. And this, and you know, 70% to 80% of our deals are from existing owners. So we know that for a fact, and they tell me, I want to invest here, I wanted to invest there, so we help them along the way.
So they're repeaters.
Absolutely.
Kamil Yazbek, Accor, Chief Growth Development Officer, not to mention Chief Air Traffic Controller. Thank you very much.
Thank you.